At Council Bluffs Savings Bank, our goal is to help you, your families, and your businesses grow and prosper for generations. We take pride in our community, whether it's volunteering our time or helping individuals, families, and businesses succeed. We provide you with the personal service and attention you deserve. With over 220 years of banking experience, decisions are made locally. We are Council Bluffs people operating at Council Bluffs Bank to help Council Bluffs be a better place to work and live. Council Bluffs Savings Bank. Hometown banking, the way it used to be. Member FDIC.
Like that far of a run. It's just like some like you don't need like a you know see a handful. It's like some energy. I like to get a
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's about 10 minutes till. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda?
With regard to 3F, the JAG grant applications, I was just curious if at this point there was some consensus or some thought as to what the funds were going to be targeted to.
And Terry, they record it, so can you go to the microphone?
Yes, sir. Captain Lee Master. Right now, we don't have any of the money earmarked for any particular item, but in the past, in our history, it's always been IT issues like computers, laptops, things like that.
Okay. So the last few years, that was the primary purpose. Is there a category that you apply to that is like IT driven or purpose driven in some way?
No, when we get the JAG grant application, we have to earmark at least 20% of that goes straight to our Swain task force. And then the rest of it is split up with the county, and then we take that money that we get, and then we check with each department to see what their IT needs are or any other needs. And that's how we usually address it. And that's how we've addressed it in the past.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Sure, you bet.
Thanks, Terry. Anything else on the consent agenda?
I was just curious on the 3D, where on the lot was the empty or the utilities planning to go? Is it a below the ground box on the corner? I had a hard time reading this schematic. I was just curious how that might affect the current or future use of that lot, if anything.
It will look similar to what it looks like now. It's an above ground, some sort of backup power generator. It is in the front 10 feet of the lot in the corner, so it's in the setback area that couldn't be used anyway.
Okay.
It's a pretty small lot, and
Yeah.
the original intent with acquiring that property was that we would acquire it and the one on the corner for the intersection project. We weren't able to come to an agreement on the corner project, so we designed the project without that acquisition, and so that property wasn't actually utilized in that First Street project.
Okay. I was just curious.
Probably not going to be used for much unless one of the neighboring properties is interested in it someday.
And so that easement then would run with the land and we still could sell it and...
Correct.
Okay.
And like I said, because it's in the setback area anyway, I don't think it would really impact the use of that property if it were to be used for some future development.
Like a rotary, just saying.
Other consent agenda item questions?
No.
Anything on the public hearing? Anything on the resolutions? Anything on the permits and cancellations?
On the resolutions, I'm sorry, Lynn Brannigan called me earlier today. She was in reference to the one, and with the getting the stagger back into the Parks Board. She had suggested that the resolution also include the vacant position and have it expire in 2015. So that essentially term has been established as well.
Yeah, and that was exactly what our plan was. When we made that appointment, we would then make that term established, and so it'd be 4 and 3.
Gotcha.
So that's a good call. That's what we intended to do. Other questions on the resolution or the applications and permits?
Go ahead, go first.
No, please.
You can start, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that we may want to move 7A3 to its own separate voting item.
Well, you can, yeah, just approve 7A,
Sure.
1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, or whatever.
I didn't know if that, I
And
doubt that's
then talk.
controversial, but,
Well, and my question on that, because, I mean, obviously, we all probably saw that lovely show. But, was there any...
Times.
But I know, I think, Dawn, your staff went and checked, right? I mean, was there any real violations from a, and I don't know who's here on the police department that would answer this either, but,
Other than ashtrays on the counter,
I mean,
weren't smoking at the time.
is there, I mean, was it, so there's really nothing, and I don't think they had any, like, underage, I didn't see anything major enough that normally, I mean, they're gonna get it approved by the state,
Well-
even if we don't approve it, I don't know.
I don't know if I necessarily, isn't there a moral turpitude or isn't there a morality
Anybody
clause?
knows
I
here?
appreciate those aren't entirely enforced anymore, but I think they're enforced in extreme cases, aren't there?
Generally speaking, there has to be some violation of a law.
That's what I thought.
So what happens in the situation, Dick, where video evidence of them smoking in the premises, which is against state law, and
Oh, they're making-
obviously
Using
fire
cups.
code violation where the employees drinking alcohol and then blowing flames that scorch the ceiling? I mean, is that just because it wasn't firsthand observance? Not,
Generally speaking, you have to have some time reference when you allege a crime. And it'd be difficult, based upon what I know, if we could do that. I mean, we could put it probably within a week or 2 week time period. But when it comes to proving something beyond a reasonable doubt, that can be difficult with no more than we really had there. I'm not sure if police actually reviewed the videos on that to determine if they thought they had enough or not on that. But,
That's why I was curious if anybody from the police department, but I don't think, we don't have anybody here really doing.
I asked fire department, they don't have anything, they
I knew
haven't
they
had
didn't.
any.
Is the applicant here, dare I ask?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
applicant actually was just downstairs.
Oh.
Oh, that's who was standing at the door when I walked in. I thought that dude looked
Yeah,
familiar.
it looks like he's
Yeah.
12 years old, maybe.
Yeah, I thought he looked familiar and I couldn't figure out why. Oh, okay. I see that
He,
route.
he looks older on TV than he does.
He
in
does, he
real
looks
life.
way older on TV
Yeah.
and bigger.
Yeah, he looks big on TV. You know, here's the thing is that, you know, they probably, I mean, they obviously violated some laws, and if they can't be enforced because we don't have a date and time, the thing is that more than anything else, it was embarrassing and humiliating for Council Bluffs, and, you know, if that were against the law, we know at least one supervisor that would be charged. So, you know, all I'm saying is, you know, if we're gonna do this, it should be for the right reasons. I mean, if we're gonna take it and the state's gonna give it back, I don't see the,
That's what will
Well-
happen. I mean, right, because even Dick, based on the one time before we took it away, for, I felt like even more valid. I mean, we had more evidence in it and the state still
And
awarded it.
Ralph's approach has always been, and I concur with it, at the time you're considering renewal, it's probably not the time to do it. If there's really a problem occurring at the bar, they'll bring something forward, whenever, no matter where they're at in their license period. And essentially, that's kind of, the last time we went to the state on this issue, got slapped around a little because we really didn't have much on the record to deny the license.
Well, I guess the establishment in this case has kind of helped to make the record for themselves. And I would draw a distinction between, you know, needing to prove a criminal violation versus an administrative law determination. And the job of this council is to provide a recommendation. And I think it's probably appropriate, notwithstanding what the letter of the law says, that we can make recommendations for what we think is a potential threat to public safety. And seeing what I saw and have heard, those concerns about public safety are sufficiently compelling that I believe it's appropriate that we provide a recommendation. And if the state wants to, as you say, slap us around or decide something to the contrary, then that's within their purview. But I think it's also within our purview to make a recommendation as to what we think is right for the public.
We can do like a, not temporary, but what did we do before? Didn't we do some sort of, where they only got it for X number of time and they had to
Yeah, that was Goofy's in the early days.
Like a warning.
We kind of put them on, we just granted them a license for a few weeks or something, or a couple months.
Yeah.
With the idea that they have to take certain steps to get their house in order. And at that point, they appeared to have done that.
Well, and at that point, though,
Sensitivity
you
training.
had some recommendations that they needed to get in order. Since Don's been down there, he's talked to them. We don't have any recommendations from police, fire, or health department. And here's my concern. I definitely understand that we could make that recommendation to the state, but when you deny a liquor license, you've impacted somebody's ability to do business. So to me, you better be able to pass muster and know that you have a legal recourse, because you know you're asking for somebody then to come back and sue you if they can't do business because you didn't renew their liquor license based on something that we hadn't even brought forward by any of our health safety departments at all.
Well, but at the same time, we do speak, there is the moral turpitude clause in there, and I appreciate the state many times overturns us. I mean, heck, they overturned us on the McDonald's sign, you know, when they remodeled their business at 16th Street because Burger King's sign was still tall, and that the state overruled us. But, you know, we do have to draw the line, and in this case, they positively confirmed every unfortunate and untrue stereotype about Council Bluffs, and they're not even from here, nor do they live here. And if we don't speak up for the folks of this community and say that that's wrong, I'm not sure who else can in this instance. This is really our only opportunity to tell them to voice our strong disapproval for violations. And if we're not going after them for criminal violations, I don't know if necessarily the time or place is necessarily indicative when you have documentary proof, which, you know, isn't hearsay or anything like that. It's just absolute proof. It doesn't depend on any individual person's memory or credibility. I mean, it's an admission. And if we're not going after them under our code, that's a whole separate issue. But here, it's an admin code. It's Al is correct. We don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt a crime's been committed. All we're doing is administratively deciding whether they meet the steps for a liquor license. And one of those requirements is the moral turpitude clause. In other words, you can't be a bad person. You can't be a person with felonies. You can't be a person openly advocating the breaking of laws or hurting the reputation of a community. I mean, we don't let anybody and their brother own a liquor place or a strip club or anything like that. If this doesn't violate the rules, then I'm afraid then we ought to just stop approving these and just carte blanche approve every single one. I mean,
Well, but there's a big difference so sometimes between ones that have, you know, they've served 2 to 3 minors, they've had, you know, documented brawls. I mean, that's the issue here. I mean, I don't doubt this bar. I mean, obviously it's bad. I mean, it had some very bad things on TV, but again, they're going to say some of that was paid. You know, they were paid to act that way.
Yeah.
It was a television show. It's not really reality. And, you know, I mean, I can see both sides. But I just feel really torn because we don't have any.
But how
We
do
don't
we-
have a list of police calls. We don't have a list of health code violations,
well,
This would come to us from the police,
or even from
Health
health
department.
department. I mean, something.
fire department, any of that.
Well,
There's no doubt in my mind how I would respond to it, but
Right.
because it came off of a TV show,
well, so if I admit a crime, I shouldn't get arrested because the police didn't catch me?
No, you can at the meeting tonight, but we don't take public comment.
I didn't witness it. I saw some clips. Quite frankly, I was too embarrassed to watch it because it confirms all sorts of things people say about us here and regionally that we've been working our level best to try to stop. And because they're not true, generally speaking, and here they met all of them from the looks of it. And, I mean, they were reusing glasses. I mean, certainly there were plenty of violations of health and safety there. For whatever reason, we didn't prosecute those. That's a separate issue than whether they get a liquor license. Separate issue.
Well, he will be here tonight at 7 o'clock, he told me, so.
well, and I think they definitely, like you said, it is your opportunity to tell them, and that's fine. I'm always concerned that when you've impacted somebody's ability to make a livelihood prior to any conviction of any crime, I think you got the cart before the horse, and I think that if it were me, I'd have a real issue with that. And, you know, and I agree, it's on video. I've always wondered, why do you even get a court date when you're on video and it's proven already?
Why
But
aren't we raising
but
those
we
charges?
don't know
They're
what
proof.
was scripted. We don't know. I mean,
That's what we're saying.
I've talked to people that said that, you know, they were there and said that a lot of this was purely scripted. So I don't know whether it is or not.
The bar in Omaha, I've been told, who one of the points that this John Tatter, or whatever his name is,
Yeah.
pointed out, Taffer, when he went in there, he said, look at your sink, it's clogged with grease. Well, they said the day before he went and purchased the grease and they brought it in and poured it into the sink.
Right.
I appreciate that, but you know, these aren't, if we're gonna get into the crime of it, they're not specific intent crimes. All you have to do is violate them. You don't have to intend to. I mean, in Iowa, it's illegal, it's just as illegal to pretend to be drunk in public as to actually be drunk. Did you know that? If you act like you're publicly intoxicated, it doesn't matter if you are or not. You are, because we as a society have made a decision that we don't want that. And, you know, if they're staging it or not, they're still committing a crime, with all due respect. And again, this issue before us isn't about the crime. I mean, it's about whether administratively they should be allowed to run a business. And I think they clearly violate the moral turpitude clause, especially if they're making things up. I mean, it's deception. I just don't get it.
Our record essentially will be that show then, and so
Yeah.
I just, in your motion, if that's the way we go tonight, is for activities depicted on the bar rescue episode, and we'll include a copy of that show and send it to them.
I mean, Dick, do you have any input on it? I mean,
I did not watch the entire program. There was something else on another channel, I believe, that I was more interested in that night.
there was something else.
Good for you.
I think it was this, was it the
Creighton basketball game.
Creighton basketball,
Much more important.
So, we can
which
take a
was
shot
so,
at it.
so bad I switched over to the show.
What would be
They lost.
interesting is to see if they then bring in testimony
Yeah.
at the administrative hearing level,
Same
Yeah.
saying
mistake.
it was all bogus, which I assume they would do.
Because normally for us to deny this and have it stick, we would probably need, you know, a record of police reports, a record of health code notifications, a record of, I mean, that's what I, yeah.
Really, I over the years, I've taken several bars there, and, they really don't take disorderly conduct terribly
I think so.
seriously at the state level. The one thing that we actually got the biggest hit on, I think, once was they'd, instead of, on the panic doors, they had chained them locked so they couldn't let their buddy in for nothing. So that was a required exit, and so I think we got a 2-week suspension on that violation.
Is that going all the way back to the Joker?
That's
Now,
gotta be.
this was actually the deep one. It's going quite a ways back too.
Wow.
So what happens if we say no, then it goes to an administrative hearing?
They-
So do they continue doing business?
They continue
Yeah.
to operate, that's,
Yes.
they appeal, that stays their license, just as goofies continue to serve.
Okay,
Yeah, it
because I
doesn't-
wasn't here when that went.
No,
I
you
think
can't,
if
due
we did it for
process, you
two,
can't have it
for
taken
another
from
one.
you. Absent,
Oh, that-
absent some major, I mean, there's, I don't know, you'd have to think of something ridiculously weird where you get shut down.
Okay, well, that
Nobody-
takes care of a lot of my concerns. I didn't know if we deny it, if they can open the doors tomorrow. or-
Yeah, they'll still be open.
Yep.
Okay.
You raise a really good point, and that's written in there just to make certain localities don't overreact.
All right, anything else on the agenda?
Let's see.
Oh, Art, yeah, Ken?
I need to point out an error that I made on the resolution regarding the auditor. All of the detailed information you have on why the position is being proposed again is all correct. Toward the bottom, I wanted to add a little bit more and say what the impact would be. And I erred in the position level that the deputy auditor, that the deputy treasurer, the position that's proposed to be eliminated is. I'd indicated it was a level 23, it's a level 20. So the change in salaries would be higher than what I had said in there. Instead of an impact of $500 a month as the difference, it would be about $1,200 a month increase. going from a level 20 to a level 25. I have two positions for people that were interested in it. One person is the deputy treasurer currently, and the other is a budget analyst. And I had put down the job code for the budget analyst, so that was my error, and I wanted to point it out. And if that impacts any of your decision making, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
In essence, is that person already, as I understand the narrative in the council communication, that person's been transitioning over because that's really where the work's needed anyway. Otherwise, you wouldn't be proposing this.
That's
I
correct.
assume. So if they're doing it and that's what they're entitled to get, it doesn't seem. I mean, if we're going to have them do it,
Well,
I appreciate the correction. I do.
yeah, I didn't want any of you
No.
coming along later and saying how could, what happened here. I wanted to point out what I had done and what was the incorrectness of it. And the transition, we're gonna open the position to internal applications. There is a person that's performing the work now, but we'll hire the best person that comes out of the selection process. Thank you.
Other questions? See it, Sam?
That's quick.
Oh, wait a minute, just real quick on, you usually say any other business? Oh, I had asked Don if he would look into adding turkeys to the deer feeding ordinance to eliminate people feeding the turkeys. I've gotten a phone call and I've seen it, I've been to houses where they have the problem, neighbor feeds them and they are very messy. And they can't let the kids play outside because it scares, they will run after the kids. So, I'm just wondering if everybody's open to that, if we could
Gotta get
add
some
that.
turkeys.
Well,
I'm saying, while we're adding that, is that the time we should then also talk about adding the hunting of turkeys like we do deer?
right, and so then we did discuss, could we
should.
do an
He's
urban
laughing at
turkey
me.
hunt? But that might be a
I have a
separate
few prime
issue.
locations where you could set up a stand. I don't just turkeys from a stand.
Well, they really are. I mean, it's getting, it is quite dangerous. I mean, they come across Madison and they can do a heck of a lot of damage to a car. So, if we want to discuss urban turkey hunt, that's something we could certainly ask Don to look into. But in the meantime, if it's all right with everybody else, I would ask that at the next council meeting, we can add to the agenda, changing the ordinance to include feeding the turkeys because,
Just a comment on that, if you wanna do that, the fall hunt is for both jakes and hens. Now, we wanna get rid of the hens. The spring hunt is only jakes only, no hens, so that's gonna play. And if we're gonna do the fall, I don't know that I can get that in because we've already talked to the state on how many licenses I get for deer. That's like in February, first part of March, so we might have to wait until next year to do that.
we could do that. We start with stopping the
bigger
feeding of them and move on to thinning the herd by, sometime next year. So.
It'll still be tasty.
Target next spring, yeah. Even bigger.
You wanna give us some for a seed and file, or?
Didn't know if I got legal from the legal department to come and talk to you.
You can talk at 7 o'clock tonight.
It'll be here, 3:45.
Really? Then approach we'll figure out what's going on.
Bruce Kelly with the Elks Club. We had somebody sell cigarettes to a minor.
Yeah, that's on you.
Okay. The Elks Club, is an organization. I don't know if all of you know what we do. We aren't a big organization. We don't have a big budget. We had one of our new bartenders let somebody in that did buy, there was a minor that bought some cigarettes. And since then, I know that they've had other minors come in and stuff to buy cigarettes, but I know this will never happen again because the Elk Club is not going to sell cigarettes at all behind the bar or anywhere else in our building because these kinds of fines, it is $300, but it really hurts a small organization. And if all of you know, all these flags around Bayless Park are from the Elks Lodge. And we maintain all the flags and poles and everything like that. After the parade, we're going to have a drug enforcement down at Big Lake where you buy fishing equipment for all these kids that can't afford or have never been fishing before to have come down there. and we serve them hot dogs and everything else. All this comes out of the Elks Lodge. And we did make this mistake. Like I said, it will not happen again because we were only supposed to sell cigarettes to the people that belong to the Elks. This new gal has been fined and has paid it. And now we have a $300 fine on the Elks, and we really can't afford to be doing this.
Dick, is it an option to surrender the license and or the fine?
That's what I'm gonna look at. I was gonna ask if they'd be willing to just have your license revoked in lieu of the fine.
Yes,
I'll check on that between now
because
and-
there is no cigarettes behind that bar, and our board of trustee and we brought it up into the lodge that it was just a convenient for the members of the lodge to buy cigarettes. And we told them if they want cigarettes, they can go to Fairway or down to the Quick Shop to get their cigarettes from now on, because we're not selling them.
I think that's the best way to go on this one.
Sounds very reasonable.
Yeah, I'm agree with that.
Between now and the meeting tonight, that we can do that, but.
Okay, so keep the check.
For now.
But don't tear it up.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Can I make a note, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
There were two special events on the agenda for packet for approval, and Thomas shows certificate of insurance wasn't provided. That did come in today, so I just want to make sure that you knew that.
Perfect.
Is that the rides?
Yeah.
Is that the right? Oh, I thought it was fine.
They're the same one as last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. Insurance.
All right, thank you.
At Council Bluffs Savings Bank, we take pride in our community and volunteering our time to helping individuals, families, and businesses succeed. We are Council Bluffs people operating a Council Bluffs bank to help Council Bluffs be a better place to work and live. Hometown banking, the way it used to be.